The good news is the Guardians are on the verge of a sweep of the White Sox. The better news is they will not face the White Sox again after today because for whatever reason, the Guardians just cannot get out of a White Sox game without any sort of trouble.
Tanner Bobby of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for joining us today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
On today's Locked On Guardians, the Guardians trading deadline acquisition, not so lame these days. We'll talk about that. We will get into a big reason the Guardians might need a long playoff run and why that is. Could Tristan McKenzie be an option as a reliever? Sam Hentges is done for the year. He's also already done for next year. We'll get into the implications of that. And we'll talk about some other minor league stuff, including another injury and the captain's Game 1 win of the Midwest League playoffs.
Hello, everyone. And again, thank you for joining us. Thank you to all of our everydayers. Thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening to our intros. I am Jeff Ellis, one of your two co-hosts here, an original host of the Locked On MLB Network. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scout and 24/7. And before that, I was a null set favorite blogger at any Cleveland sports blog that has or will exist. There is literally no September 10th facts. Nothing in Guardians history to pull. So
I'm Justin Latta. Thank you to all of our first-time listeners or everyday listeners or something in between. I've been covering the Guardians prospects since 2007. I was formerly the editor of the Guardians Baseball Insider. I'm also currently the News Herald and the Morning Journal, where I will be again. I'll talk about it. We're going to be Thursday. We're 2 days away from this now. Get your tickets to the Captain's playoff game on Thursday. It could be a serious clinching win. The Captains won on Tuesday. So Dylan DeLucia goes for the Captains Thursday. They could clinch a sweep of the first round and go to the Midwest League Finals. So come hang out. It'll be a lot of fun. They barely came back and won on Tuesday in walkout or in late fashion. It was fun. Use the code on Locked On when you buy your tickets through our link. It's on YouTube. It's in your podcast description. Come hang out. It'll be a fun time. And even more fun is the Guardians' magic number down to 14.
It's a great number.
Really get in at number 14 for Cleveland, right?
I mean, you got Tito Francota, you got Larry Doby, Bob Fellerwart for a little bit, Wes Farrell, Jim Hegan. You know, fun connections throughout, and then Chris Chambliss, and then Jesse Levis is your last one. It does make me sad to see Julio Franco to Jerry Brown, though. That was for as much as Rangers fans complain about Class A, the Buddy Bell and Julio Franco deals were the banes of my youth. At least the way my parents.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't really think about anybody at 14 besides Larry Doby. So,
I just didn't realize Bob Fellerwart for a bit. Maybe that's something I should have known, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. He did have 2 seasons with it. The rest of the names I couldn't really. I mean, I obviously knew Jim Hegan and I know Tito, but those names. The rest of those names didn't really resonate with me. I think I saw Julio Franco in his second iteration with the Indians. That guy had a wild career too. Some other time we can talk about that. Today we talk about the Guardians 5-0 win over the White Sox. Good win for the Guardians with some weird things. It's just even in a 5-0 win, I know someone's like, oh, you're being negative. The only reason today to be negative is that the Guardians could not get out of this win. It was 5-0, a shutout, without having to use manual Class A. They did this time, but they had to incur an injury. It's like, the other day they were up 5-0 and ended up being 5-3, and they had to go to Class A, and they won 1 for 14 run scoring position. It's like, should have spread that game out a little more. You should have not had to use the big dogs. This one, not their fault. A line drive off of Ben Lively's hip. He's got a thigh contusion, they're saying right now. But it's like, even in a win that was a good win, they hit the ball well. They scored enough runs. They were on base. Lively was pitching well. Like, this should have been a very easy, uncomplicated win. And instead, they cannot escape the White Sox, even healthy. Like, this is just the most maddening thing ever. Like, for a team that's going to win the division, and who knows what to do in the playoffs, but is it Grady Sizemore who was like, you know what? If we're not going to beat you, I'm just going to get you with the injury. I'm not telling this guy's to line the ball off the pitcher's hip, but it's just, they can't just have an uncomplicated win for once against the White Sox. Like, remember Bo Naylor ended Brian Shaw's major league career for now with a walk-off win in Cleveland. Like, have they had an uncomplicated win against the White Sox this year?
I mean, yesterday I felt kind of uncomplicated, right?
I guess. Not really. They still
perfect game.
Nick Sandlin. No,
I guess Nick Sandlin. Yeah,
get outs, and
I didn't want to think about Nick Sandlin. So I blocked it out. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at the other ones. It's weird. Like if they would have just if they had took care of business against this team like the Royals and Twins had, this division would already be over. Like if they were they're 7-5. Is that right?
Now, yeah, it could be 8-5 on
tomorrow.
Wednesday
if they were, I mean, just give them 2 wins, right? So instead of 7-5, it's 10-2. Like everyone else has done against this terrible team. You give them 3 more wins, your magic number would be down to 11, right? Like it would just be an entirely different situation. It's comical that it's like one could draw this direct line that their inability to take the White Sox. I don't know if it's still the case. There's a time where Cleveland was 20% of the White Sox wins. Probably not the case, and I could do that math. That's not that hard. But still,
speak for yourself.
Are they at 22 wins now? What are the White Sox at?
I don't know. The White Sox, though, if you look at the run differential, so Cleveland's got 55 runs. I'm sorry, it's a 10-run differential now. Cleveland's got 56 against the White Sox. They've allowed 46, so it's a 10-run differential. They've got better run differentials against better teams.
I'm sorry, they're up to 33 wins. That was way off. So yeah, that's
it could be close.
1/6. So it's basically 1/6, between 1/6 to 1/7. So of the White Sox entire wins, which is still a lot.
Yeah, you got the tiebreaker against the White Sox at least, right?
Well, you need that. You need that because if the White Sox win all of their games for the rest of the season, they'll still lose 100 games because they're already there.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. The good thing that on Tuesday night was Lane Thomas, who in the month of September has been arguably the Guardians' best hitter. I think, what is that now, Jeff? 13 games in a row for Lane Thomas.
13 straight. He's done something. And if what's his name doesn't make that great play, we'd be safe 14. It's been
Brian Reynolds. Brian Reynolds robbed him at the wall at home against Pittsburgh last weekend. But yeah, he's had a hit in 5 straight games now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight games now. He's got a bunch of runs batted in the month of September, which is really good. Finally getting some contributions from the guy you traded for. He's got 9 runs batted in the month of September. So, I know we don't really judge on RBI because they're not predictive, but the fact that he drove them in still is a good thing. They happened. Not that it means it's going to happen going forward, but they happened and they contributed to a win. And we're going to take that.
And just to point out, listen, I've been hard on Rocchio, but over the last 15 days, which is a small sample size, I am one of the highest OPS on the team, Kyle Manzardo at a 1.1052. Then you got Lane Thomas at a 1.031, Josh Naylor at 934, then Rocchio at an 803. I'm not going to count Freeman because it's 5 at bats, but then David Fry at a 798. And then, listen, I was being very negative. You and I with Bo Naylor, 781, Jimenez, 778. So, Jose at a 559. We'll just kind of move past that. Noel at a 547 and Quan at a 487. But let's stick to the positives so I don't get yelled at in the comments again. Like Thomas and Manzardo have been great. And we saw that today. And it led to multiple runs. And Thomas's home run was off a righty. That's like his second or third home run off a righty, which was not what we really expected for him. And he came up with he knocked in the first run, and then he came and really had the big one. If I was still doing the 3 stars of the game, it'd be him and the bullpen are easy choices. Probably Manzardo for your third. But and Rocchio, listen, he made a spectacular play, and then he made a nutty professor play. He's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There we go. That's what it is. We had Dr. Jekyll early in the game and Mr. Hyde late. So it's but he's doing better offensively. Like let's be fair to Rocchio. Like he's been getting better as the year has gone on. And hopefully this is just a sign, and I want to eat my words. Just like I said with Noel, please, Brian, just make me have to eat a big old sandwich of crow. I would love to do it.
As we're recording this, I'm watching the replay of Ben Lively getting hit in the thigh or whatever he got hit with that line.
Yeah, it was the thigh.
And his his face immediately, like it was just very painful immediately. I was like, it was hard to watch. And I was like, I thought for sure he was going to be in worse shape than he currently is. Who knows if he'll make his next start or not. But is there a guy, I mean, we feel bad for Shane Bieber and all this other stuff. Is there a guy currently out, on the pitching staff? We'll talk about Sam Hentges later in the show. To feel worse for than Sam Hentges, or than Sam Hentges, then my wife would say Sam Hentges, than Ben Lively, because Ben Lively essentially was like the rotation savior for like 4 months of the season, and he's had some struggles recently, and maybe it's because he has kind of blown past
high
his
workload
limit. Yeah, and then he comes out and he's pitching good tonight against the White Sox on Tuesday, and then he gets hit with a liner. It's like the guy has not been able to catch a break lately between trying to work his way back from struggles after basically saving the rotation most of the year, and then takes a ball off the leg and comes out of the game. Like, you gotta feel bad for that guy. He's not even really related to Blake Lively, so that's he doesn't have that to fall back on.
No, not Blake, and not Aaron Lively either. If you want to go for Teen Witch reference, top that.
That one's way over my head.
You can top that. Someone will get that. But to get back to the other thing too, it's like poor Ben Lively. He bounced around so much, and he's never been a guy. Like, since they signed him, they basically own him for the rest of his baseball career in Cleveland. Like, he's not going to even hit arbitration for 2 more years. He's not a free agent until 2029, I want to say. Like, he's going to be 36 before he ever gets free if he continues to play even remotely well for Cleveland. So, it just hurts his earning potential. Hopefully it's just one of those situations. He got hit by 100-mile-an-hour thing in the leg.
96,
was 96. It's like maybe got a Charlie horse, maybe got stiffened up, maybe got a little scared, fell weird, and he's going to be fine. I'm going to pull for that. Like, even when it happened, and you and I were texting, I was like, it's going to be fine. It was the thigh, not the D. He's going to be like, I was Mr. Sunshine in our texting.
Tell that to the look on his face, man. I'm telling you, it was not good. Lineup was really interesting in this game. Not necessarily, they had 11 hits and 2 walks, which is good. They did a lot of good things in this game offensively, and then they broke out late, obviously the home run, and then Jimenez came through after a Quan hit, which is good. We'll talk about Quan in a second. For how this lineup was built in this game, I think this is one of the better things we're going to see. So we're going to talk about the lineup, and this is kind of it. This is kind of the best it's going to be for the Guardians on paper. We'll talk about why. We'll talk about the bullpen, and we'll talk about why the Guardians probably need a big playoff run for something that's coming in the offseason that unfortunately is not going to be good news. So we'll get into that coming up next. Guardians are finally coming back home after this long road trip. At some point, I don't know if it's going to happen on this homestand, probably not, but it's going to happen soon. They are going to be counting down the magic number, and they might clinch the division at home. That's pretty fun, Playoff wins are fun. World Series wins, we all want that kind of stuff. But maybe you're somebody who wants to keep, watching the calendar go by and see the magic number click down, and you're like, I don't want to buy tickets immediately. I want to wait until I know the magic number is down to 1 and they have a chance to clinch that night. And you want to go to that game because I've been to those games before. They're fun. Use Game Time. You can buy tickets last minute. Don't got to plan ahead. You can watch the calendar. You can watch the dates. If it gets down to 1, the Guardians are at home, we want to go. Get a good option for tickets on Game Time. They've got great features like amazing deals, best deals, all that kind of stuff. They'll tell you what the best price and the best section is for that game based on their offers. That's really good. It filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets with Game Time picks. I use that a lot. And then I always talk about how I have the all-in pricing feature turned on every time I use the app because it tells me exactly what I'm going to pay to get into the stadium or get into the arena, wherever I'm going. I know exactly. There's no surprise fees at checkout like the other apps if you have the all-in pricing turned on. So you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets, whether it's your final price or whether you're deciding when to go to a game. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONMLB. You're also going to get $20 off your first purchase on top of all those other benefits. So terms apply. Again, create the account and use our code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off the first time you're purchasing through Game Time. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All the pennant races heating up. I know ESPN is bringing back baseball tonight, but Sully is our one-man baseball anchor here at Locked On. Does all the pennant races, all the stat chasing, all that kind of stuff, all the day storylines over at Locked On MLB. your team every day, part of the Lockdown Podcast Network. So Sully's covering every team over there, including the Guardians and other things maybe we're not thinking of. You never know. Check out. Sully's always got a good point to bring up about stuff. As far as the lineup, Jeff, I want to get into this one thing. The Guardians, one reason why they got to make the playoffs this year, or not make it, but make a significant run. But this lineup tonight against the White Sox, and again, I know it's the White Sox. Everyone's going to say don't care. Maybe that's part of why our viewership has been kind of iffy so far this week.
After a big win, yeah, surprising.
Yeah, but Kwan, you and I were talking off air, like, okay, so Kwan should have had at least a walk tonight.
Yeah,
he did have one walk. He should have had 2 walks.
He should have reached base 3 times.
4 if you count. He had 1 walk and a hit. He should have had 4 walks or 2 walks and a hit. So it should have been 3 times. You're right. So 3 times. He had the hit late and he scored the run, which was good. It made it 5-0. The 1 strikeout call, I'm not going to give him anything on because he should have been on first base already with ball 4, ball 5. Yeah. So I think you're starting to see, and the first ball he hit in the game tonight on Tuesday was in the gap, and it was run down by Dominic Fletcher. I think that was a good swing. It's a swing you're used to seeing from him on an inside pitch. So I feel like there are some positive signs to take from Stephen Kwan right now, which is good. We've been waiting for any positive sign, truthfully. And I know it's confirmation bias, but against right-handers, Andres Jimenez has had reverse platoon splits in the past. This year, not so much.
He's horrible this year. It's really weird.
It's so weird. Yeah, year to year, this is one of those things we can talk about that are so weird. But you've got your top of the order, right? You got Kwan, Jimenez against righties, Jose and Naylor. That 5, 6, 7 on paper, and Noel did not have a good night. Noel has had a couple of bad games in a row, actually. Believe it or not, I know people were waiting for this.
I said he's
to point this out.
The last few weeks, it's been really bad for him. Like there's no way to sugarcoat it. It's not been great for him.
He chased twice tonight. It was not good. But we keep saying, despite that, he's a player.
Still play him every day. Yeah, no doubt.
Yes,
play him every day.
So finally, you've got Thomas hitting 5th, which is great because he's producing right now. Manzardo and Fry in that platoon, gives you really good potential. Noel hitting 7th gives you some firepower at the bottom of the order. If he just gets into 1 per game, whether that's a double or a home run, you'll take that. And then Bo Naylor can run into 1 in the bottom of the order. He's got 12 home runs. We know there's offensive potential there, even if it's been very ugly at times. And then Rocchio's been better lately. I think on paper, that lineup's as good as you're going to get for the Guardians at this point in the season. And you swap in Fry for Manzardo. Maybe you put Fry second again, like Vogt did on Monday, which I liked. And you move Andres down to 6 or 7. On paper, I think that gives you at least something interesting to watch and see if this offense can do enough damage to make a playoff run or make some sort of noise in the playoffs. Like that's on paper. I've seen worse. I know I'm really inspiring confidence there.
Yeah.
But,
it could
on paper,
be
it gives me hope.
I just kind of look at it too. Like I know some people are like, what about Lane Thomas? I just don't want to mess with him. Like we've seen so many ups and downs. I don't want to rock that boat. So like, I kind of agree. And we saw Fry. And again, if you go back to, I think on Monday's show, I talked about over the last month that David Fry actually has some pretty solid statistics. And, I think that could be a good spot for him. And that allows you to keep Lane where he is. And you and I agree. It's like, we don't care how poorly it's going for Noel right now. Listen, today was his 8th game without a home run. It's the longest he has gone without a home run since he got called up. He had a 7 and a 6 gamer before that, but he is kind of streaky too. Like we have seen this as a guy who's going to be a little up and down. So you just kind of have to prepare for that to a degree. And you need to just kind of give him, have some faith in him that he's going to be able to figure out, turn it around, or that he's going to just fall into a few, like with his power, that there's always a possibility he's going to be able to get some. So you just kind of leave it be and not leave it be, but, do the changes you talked about, maybe is how I should phrase it. And I do think we're seeing a pathway to mediocrity.
I think it's just a pathway. It's the best construction, the best combination of hitters starting that you're going to see for this roster. Like if you're going to do any damage in the playoffs, it's going to be with this lineup. I think it's not going to be with, it's not going to be with Daniel Sheeman or Will Brennan or Tyler Freeman. Like I'm not.
How about George Valera?
Ooh, yeah, we'll get to Valera later in this too. It's definitely not going to be him. May not be him for a while. Before we move on to that stuff, Jeff, you wanted to point out the bullpen. I know, people wanted to discredit Joey Cantillo's bit of perfection on Monday, and I don't care who you are. Not that my athletic achievements are so poor that I can compare, but like I had I threw a 299 in bowling once, and it was a summer league. It wasn't like a PB or one of those sanctioned leagues by the bowling association, whatever. So I never got anything for it, but I'm like, you know what? I still threw 11 straight strikes. I don't care what time of year I threw it. Joey Cantillo still threw 20 straight outs. Like he still got 20 straight outs, and this bullpen still covered 7 innings, which is not easy to do.
Yeah, and the White Sox team, for all of their struggles this year,
they're still bad, Jeff. They're still bad.
I'm not saying they're not bad, but the one thing I'll say is like they've played better under Sizemore. Like they have definitely seemed to.
That's right. Grady Sizemore makes everybody play hard because he played hard.
He seems to have given them a degree of invigoration that they lacked before. Am I saying they're good? No. Did you look at their record? But they are playing better. There's some guys who are definitely performing a lot better. There are players who are doing a lot more than they had been. So I think it's unfair to completely knock this team. It's like you don't get, almost 7 innings of perfect baseball by accident. All of this is, giving credit. The bullpen, it's hard to keep runs off the board. That's why we don't see a lot of shutouts, even against the White Sox. And they did their job, and that's what you needed them to do. And they relatively staunched the bleeding so much they may not have to make a roster move. They still might. But you and I think most people watching at home would agree that like when things went sideways, we all kind of went like, oh, who's going down? Like we immediately thought, but like Morgan and Avila really helped keep this team in a good place.
You might even say, Jeff, the other team gets paid too.
No comment.
Your favorite phrase. Their team gets paid too. Yeah, you were alluding to that. You did. You basically just say that. Their team gets paid too. Grady Sizemore gets paid to rile them up, and he's riling them up pretty good.
I mean, that team is wearing shirts with his face on it. Like,
yeah, that says something. Are they the new Grady's ladies? Are the White Sox Grady's ladies?
I don't think so. I think it's I don't think the White Sox players have the thirst that those ladies had back in the day. Let's put it that way.
If they buy Grady Sizemore coffee mugs, we'll really know they're in. That's a joke that we cannot go into further.
I cannot. So let me explain what Grady Sizemore did.
No, you will not. You will not.
This is my last episode, everyone.
It was fun while it lasted. It was a great run. Maybe some people are really happy. No, the bullpen was good, and that's the thing. Vogt's been doing good too. I will say is, for as much as people are worried about the bullpen being run down and overused, the one thing he's done well is pitch management. So, like, Cade Smith threw 14 pitches in this game. On Monday, Cade Smith threw none, which is great. Tim Herron threw 10, and Hunter Gaddis threw 11. Like, those guys should be good tomorrow because Gaddis only threw 8 on Monday, and Tim Herron didn't throw Monday. So, like, you manage them enough to where that you can bring them back tomorrow. And Clase only needed 14. He had the day off, so that's good. So, like, they may not need to make a move on Wednesday. After all, if they do, like, maybe it's Connor Gillespie, but they were efficient to their credit, which they needed to be, but Vogt wasn't trying to get like a million pitches out of them. He got them out of there with enough done to be able to bring them back tomorrow, which is super important. Because it's important because the Guardians need to make a deep playoff run, and they're going to need that bullpen. We're going to talk about why it might be imperative to make a deep playoff run coming up after this.
But first, we are going to talk about our good friends over at PrizePicks. And listen, Caleb Williams made it interesting this week with a rather poor performance, but he still got more than one passing yard. So if you took advantage of their deal, which was pick more on Caleb Williams for more than one passing yard, you still won. You still made out. And they are keeping that through September. All 4 weeks. It's one free W. And you just need to pick more or less than 2 to 6 stat projections. We talked about famous Cleveland 14s earlier in this episode. Greek George, if you had picked more than 0 for umpires punched, you would have won back in 1930 something. Go look that one up. Some Cleveland facts in the middle of the ad read. But they've also brought in flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So you got a free W. You can cash out even with some losses. There's so many fantastic reasons to check out our good friends over at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play 5. That's free money. The code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to get that bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
2:10, I believe, on Wednesday for the Guardians. Eastern, White Sox and Guardians in the finale. Matthew Boyd and Davis Martin. You can catch all the action in your Sirius XM app while you work. Just search Guardians on the app. All right. Aside from the Ben Lively news on Wednesday or Tuesday, I should say, I don't want to bring the mood.
Injury day.
I don't want to bring the mood down after a win and the injury, all that kind of stuff. But the Guardians, if they're going to do anything next season, I really don't like getting into payroll talk because there's no productive comments that come from it. And I know we're going to get a certain amount of them anyway for this, but Crane's Cleveland business, there was an article on Tuesday, if you didn't see it, saying that the Guardians will enter the offseason with no TV deal as of right now. And the two options that are on the table currently, and there could be a third option that we don't see that they're negotiating or that might pop up. We don't know yet. As of right now, it's re-sign with Bally Sports for another season for less than $55 million they got in 2022. So they got paid $55 million in 2022 from Bally's for their last year of the regional sports network. That went down in 2024, except Major League Baseball made up the difference because of the whole bankruptcy issue. Crane's Cleveland business said that next year the option is to either re-sign with Bally Sports Network for less than that or go to Major League Baseball's local media division, which is less money. So the local media division option might be better in terms of fan reach. Like people might be getting access to games easier than they are now, which is a good thing. That doesn't necessarily offset what they'll lose in money. So if the Guardians want to pour anything into payroll, they're having a good season attendance wise. If they have a good playoff run, that could go a long. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say that could go a long way. I'm saying could it? I'm going to ask. Could it go any sort of way to offset? Let's be honest. The TV, the regional sports network bubble has popped.
It's never coming back.
It is never coming through that door. Yeah, it is like the 2008 housing market. It is gone. So I guess the answer is no, it can't completely offset it, but it would sure go a long way towards, backfilling some things, right? Like if they can get deep into the ALCS, and that's why the buy, I don't know. That's why the buy is so important too, because you get more money for the LDS. If you win that round, you get more money into the ALCS. So just
or is it more important to not get the buy and maximize games? I don't know. Like,
yeah, how does that work exactly? Like, do you not get paid because you're not playing, but you had guaranteed yourself to advance to that round?
Yeah.
So you're not getting paid because you're not part of those games, the wild card round?
You're not playing. So
even though you guaranteed yourself to.
Yeah. I mean, how would you pay? You're not generating revenue.
In theory, there should be more money involved for the next round.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. There's no way, it doesn't matter how good the postseason goes, you're not going to make up for. I mean, I think but this is the thing. And yes, the increased revenue this year is great, but for the past decade, it hasn't been about
TV money,
ticket sales. It's all been about
it was TV money.
Yeah, it was all TV money. So it's like nothing is going to bring back what is lost here. Like this is a serious situation.
Not 100%. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't even think close to. Like at best, they were at 55 million this year because we know they got paid back to it. I think even if they made it all the way to the World Series and won it, like what they're going to get next year with a local deal. If
they won it, the merch sales would go through the roof.
Well, maybe the merch sales would help, but just in terms of ticket sales plus the TV contract, I think they'd max out around 40, 45. They'd still be 10 million under. And this is going to be an issue because we know that basically with Dolan in charge, and we've heard literally nothing about the buyout and the new ownership and all of that since the moment it was announced. There's been and we're not going to hear anything listen, Dolan is here. He is not the worst owner in baseball. We're facing the team with the worst owner in baseball right now. That is beyond a doubt.
True.
And
Oakland, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Oakland is the worst. It's John Fisher is there's no doubt there. I'm sorry.
And then it's Jerry
but,
Reinsdorf. Yeah.
But what is he cheap? Absolutely. And he's not willing to lose money on this team. So they are never going to lose money. Like, he is not going to reach into his pockets for the sake of baseball. So them losing $10 million does probably mean, $10 million less in salary. Like, we're losing, there's a world where Shane Bieber leaves and sure, arbitration raises will go up. And that's always that thing where every time you try to do the 1-to-1, it doesn't work because of arbitration. Like, Shane Bieber's $20 million is going to be covered more than by their arbitration raises next year. Guys like Naylor in the final year are going to be expensive, things like that. So instead, it's going to be, little bits here and there. Like Scott Barlow, that's $8 million. Just because they went deep in the postseason, I do not, because the one time they went out and spent was Edwin Encarnacion
2016,
and they had worse ticket numbers that next year than the year before. So
they did.
And unfortunately, you can, no matter what you want to say, they spent money one time, and what they learned was it didn't do anything. So they never did it again.
Well, it got better in 2017. It got worse in 2018.
It did. But they made the World Series and went out and signed the biggest power bat in free agency, and they sold less tickets. Like,
no, they sold more in 2017. They sold less in 2018.
It was not a significant amount more in 2017 was the issue.
I remember it went up because Edwin's contract was tied to the $2 million in attendance. He got like some kind of bonus for the Guardians having 2 million, or the Indians at the time having 2 million in attendance. So he got some sort of bonus because they hit some sort of attendance figure. So I know it went up in 2017. I know it went down in 2018. It's gone down. It went down every year until last year. I'm sorry. It was last year I think it went up because I think it's because the rule changes and maybe after effect of the Jose deal. I don't know, all that kind of stuff. So maybe that makes it more imperative to make as deep a run as you can, because
it went from 1.6 to 2 million. So, but it didn't go up a sizable amount.
But it went down. It didn't go up a Grady Sizemore coffee mug. It went down to 2018. A guy who will not be part of the net. I don't think he'll be part of the team next year.
He won't.
At least
there's no way.
Without.
No.
Yeah, I would imagine Sam Hentges is not going to pitch next season, no matter what. I'm thinking as far as is he a non-tender candidate? So if you haven't heard, Sam Hentges is having shoulder surgery to repair his labrum and anterior capsule. This is like the same injury Daniel Espino had, unfortunately, and it's bad. It was bad for Espino. This is bad for Hentges.
And that's after 2 Tommy Johns for him as well. So he's had 2 Tommy Johns and this.
Has he had 2? I think he's had 1.
I thought he had 2.
I think he had 1. I know he had 1.
I mean, here's the one. I have an article here saying that he's had 2. I thought he had 2 in the minors.
I remember 1. I mean, maybe there's one that says 2. Either way, and I know people are going to say, well, why didn't he get the surgery earlier? He had been, talking over options with doctors for a few, since July, since this popped up. And people are going to say, well, why didn't he get the surgery sooner? He could have come back sooner. Shoulder surgery is like Tommy John is bad enough, but shoulder surgery is even riskier, and there's no guarantees with how you'll come back. And, anybody who says minor, there's no such thing as minor surgery. There's only things of surgery that aren't occurring for you. I think the reason he put it off, again, the same as McKenzie, is you're trying to offset risk. You're trying to push the risk out. Like, surgery is risky, especially to a shoulder for a pitcher. So he was doing whatever he could to try to not have surgery because it's a risk. And they finally determined there was no other way forward for him, and he had to have surgery. So now he obviously is done for this year. He's going to be done for all of next year. I think, unfortunately, it makes Sam a non-tender candidate. Maybe they bring him back, on a lesser deal, like not necessarily the Brandon Woodruff type deal, but like a smaller one. I don't know. Does he only get a minor league deal? Like, either way, I think there's a good chance he's non-tendered.
Yeah, I mean, and it looks like I was wrong. It looks like it is just 1. I think I had bad stuff. He's making 1.16 million this year. So he would have made, probably an arbitration close to 1.34.
Because it always goes up no matter what.
It always goes up. So, he could be a non-tender. Here's the one thing I'll say is, even if he doesn't pitch next year, which he won't, let's be honest, they would still have 2 more years of team control. Now, the problem is, coming back from it is probably going to cost a good chunk of 2016.
And he'll be 30, 2025.
Yeah. So it's like if you're holding on to him, it's for probably half of 2016 when he's going to be 30, coming, fully back from because of just getting
you keep
back.
saying 2016.
I'm sorry, 2026.
Okay.
2016 is when he had his Tommy John. Maybe that's why I got that on my head. But in 2025 is done. 2026, he's going to take him a while to come back and be successful. And you only have him for one more year after that before he's a free agent. So I hadn't thought about designating, that he might, but I mean, there's a case for it because, they don't have a huge 40-man crunch, but there's enough guys, and, and they could do it kind of like the Anthony Ghost deal, right? Like maybe not the Woodruff one, but a better version of what they did with Anthony Ghost.
Yeah, the 2 years where 1 year is rehab and 1 year is you're hoping to get. But the problem is, by the time he's pitching again, he'll be 30 years old.
Yeah. No, he's going to be 30, having had 2 massive surgeries, and this one is a scary one. I think, but I mean, I'm willing to do that gamble.
Great kid. Yeah.
Especially because, it's like this is his first arbitration year. He had been very good. You and I talked last offseason about how he was maybe the most important reliever on this team.
He was.
And, luckily so many, even though people wanted to cut Gaddis so many times, and one of our everydayers whose name I won't call was insistent that he was not a major league talent. Gaddis has been spectacular. I thought that after the first month they'd have to move down Cade Smith. I got that one wrong. So it's not like any of us are perfect, but just as things came back. So luckily other people, and Tim Herron, I don't think any of us expected him to do it. So it's a nice situation, but it is unfortunate. He hasn't gotten paid a lot. He's been really good though. And yeah, I don't know what the right path forward is.
Yeah. Can we also, I feel bad for Sam. Can we also just say really quickly, there's some other things we didn't get to today, shocker, that we'll preview for tomorrow. But can we just say that this bullpen has been historically good. 0 innings from Trevor Steffen, who was, your best reliever in 2022. He had hiccups last year. James Karinchak is no longer
got the AAA.
He's got the AAA. He's probably not coming back to help at all. He's just, pitching for the courtesy of pitching. You haven't had those 2 guys who were big part of your bullpen in 2022. Sam Hentges is barely thrown this year. We talked about him being the most important reliever in the bullpen. That's 3 guys who were huge members of your bullpen the last time you were in the playoffs just 2 years ago. And this is still one of the best, if not the best bullpen in baseball. And let's not even throw out the fact that Cade Smith didn't even know he was making the opening day roster until like a day before. Like he was literally in a hotel room with his siblings, and they told him, "Oh, hey, you're gonna be on the roster tomorrow," because they were wondering if they would claim somebody off waivers and send to AAA. Yeah.
Only if they can't find somebody better. I believe it was the exact thing from Zach.
Yeah. It's like, geez, like this bullpen, it's amazing how and Nick Sandlin has been, very, very shaky at best the second half. Eli Morgan was hurt most of the season. You got Pedro Avila, who picked up huge innings for you on Tuesday night. Eli Morgan, Eric Sabrowski closed this game. Not that he's been, huge yet, but just what a weird year for the bullpen.
It's funny too, because the bullpen, like I know we're running out of time, but it's like Avila and Gaddis in particular have been at various points were such whipping boys where people hated them even being on this team.
Yeah.
And now they're like cruxes. I mean, they're important stability points.
This is why bullpens are unpredictable. This is why you can rebuild them on the fly. This is why they're volatile year to year. All right. Speaking of relievers, Tristan McKenzie made a sort of relief appearance on Tuesday night in Columbus. We don't have time to get into it today, but we'll get into it tomorrow, I promise. Guardians finish up the series against the White Sox as Matthew Boyd and Davis Martin. The Captains won game 1 of their playoff series on Tuesday. That was good. They got huge contributions from Ralphie Velasquez. An RBI double in the 9th inning when they were down 2-1. Jacob Cozart, who's had a very hard time hitting this season, had a 2-run single to help them win. We'll get into more of that tomorrow. I don't expect George Valera to be in the lineup on Wednesday, so we can get into that on Wednesday shows or Thursday show, because he left the Columbus game on Tuesday in the 2nd inning with an injury. We'll get into that. Get your Captain's playoff tickets for Thursday. Use the code Locked On and use our link to catch those. And come hang out during the playoff game Thursday. I'll be there. So tomorrow's show, Tristan McKenzie, could he work as a reliever? We'll recap the Captain's game 1 win. We'll talk about the George Valera injury. We'll get a rotation update with Boyd and Cobb, or not Boyd, Jesus, no injury to Boyd, please, to Lively and Cobb. At some point, we'll preview the Tampa Bay series, and at some point, we're going to get into if this Guardian season was a success already or not.
And we want to thank you all for joining us. As always, the only reason we do it is because we have fun interacting with all of you. That's what makes this show work. So thank you to all of our everydayers. Remember, hit the bell so you always get notified. Tune in no matter what. Play it in the background, I say, even if you're not feeling like doing it that day. Help us out. Thank you all. And go, Guardians, go.